You're listening to Lorna Porca hurling in the ears here on WLR, with thanks to PwC Waterford. Well, this week we're looking back at Waterford's famous win over Tipperary in the 1998 Munster semi-final at Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Well, Sean Cullinane was full back for Waterford on that occasion, and delighted to say that the passage defender is on the line now. And Sean, you soldiered with Waterford from 1988 right up to 2002. Does that win over Tipperary rank as the most enjoyable day of your inter-county career?
Most, it certainly does, yeah. This is the first time in my career we say that we've beaten Tip in the championship. We've been on the end of a few beatings over the years, and to actually get a first championship win over Tip is really definitely the highlight of my career. I suppose it's a sad way to say it in a way, but look, that's the way it was, but get that championship win over Tip was the very first one. It was really good.
And when you think back on it now, Sean, what are your abiding memories of that game down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh?
Well, I suppose things changed when Gerald McCarthy came along in 97, and the training kind of was more intense, and we progressed and we got to the league semi-final and onto the league final in 98, and then we went down to Kerry, I suppose, and we didn't have the greatest performance down in Kerry. We came away with an 8 or 9, 10 point win in the end, but we made very hard work. So going into the Tip game, I suppose we were under no illusions. We weren't expecting great results. I suppose we were always hoping more than anything. But on the day, things went well for us. We conceded 1 or 2 goals. Before half time, we conceded a sloppy goal. But to hold them, they got 2-13, was it? 22 points. But the result is the most pleasing thing. But the performances grew in 98, slow starting the league on to the league final, as I said, and then, into the championship, and we just gained momentum as the year went on.
And how severe was the training under Gerald McCarthy, Sean, in those couple of years leading up to the league and championship in 98?
Well, it was, I suppose, Clare really set the ball rolling, back in 94, 95, so I think it took us maybe a year or two to get to that level, and Gerald came along, he certainly had us up to that level. We could have been, training sessions could go on for 2.5 hours at least, if not 3 hours sometimes, depending on how much gym work you done before. Back then we were kind of doing gym for maybe an hour, field for an hour, in the January, February, and in the early months, that's the regime. You had a gym for an hour, field for an hour, and then, maybe whatever bit of hurling you could do under the lights, they weren't great there, but it definitely would consist of 2.5 hours minimum, whereas prior to that, you could have a session over in half that time easily,
Yeah, and I was reading that the Nutrin diet was also introduced, Sean, in 98. Like the Offaly footballers had used it in 97 when they went to, and won the Leinster title under Tommy Lyons. Can you explain to the listeners what that involved?
Basically, they took a sample of blood, and then they analysed. Everybody was different, of course, and you had a list of things that you had to give up. Basically, you couldn't eat anything with preservatives in it, be it in a tin or a packet. You're basically eating just basic foods, potatoes and meat that didn't have any preservatives in it. So then after, I think, a 6-week period, then you can start introducing one at a time, and if you didn't get a reaction to each one, you could keep taking that, whatever it was. And it worked for some fighters, didn't for more. For me personally, it definitely worked. I did lose nearly 2.5 stone, but I felt great, and I suppose coinciding with the hard training, the biggest thing for me was in your match, if you did make a lung bursting run, as the fella said, you could recover within 10 seconds. They're ready to go again. Whereas prior to that, it could take you a minute or two, and you're out on your feet, you're trying to gasp for air. But for some reason, with this diet and with this a bit of weight loss and with the extra training, everything together, you could just go again 10 seconds later, which is a huge asset.
Yeah, and everyone seemed to buy into it, Sean, which seemed to be a big help, like players and management. Like you were all in the same boat, you were all making sacrifices.
Well, you are, and it's a huge sacrifice, It wasn't nice what you're trying to live on, to put it that way.
Right.
You had to make your own bread, which you might as well be eating cardboard, as the fella said. There wasn't much flavour in it. But it was okay. Like, I started eating porridge then, and I'm still eating it to this day, and you know, you get acquired to it, like things I wouldn't have been eating up to that. But no, but once you get the results out of it, it's worth doing it. You know what I mean? And I think for the majority of the panel, everyone gained results. Now there was a few that didn't agree with him. You know, they weren't feeling well with it and different things. But you know, for the vast majority, it worked. And you know, it's definitely a help.
So certainly was. And like Sean, you went on to play Clare in those 2 Munster finals, but you went off injured during the second half of the drawn game. You missed all the drama of the replay. It must have been rare to go then to play Galway in the All-Ireland quarter-final up in Croke Park.
I was, yeah. Felt the hamstring just getting tight just after half-time, and I sold it on for maybe for 10 minutes, but just had to go. I knew it definitely wasn't going to last, so tried. It had a 7-day turnover, but didn't make it. Done a fitness test that morning on the way up in Oldingford, but didn't make it. So, rare to go in for the Galway game. And thankfully enough, it all held out.
I was speaking to Stephen Frampton earlier, Sean, about the All-Ireland semi-final against Kilkenny. He kind of felt that maybe inexperience cost you on the day. Do you look back on that game as a kind of a missed opportunity that year?
Definitely, you know, there's 3 or 4 games that, you know, Waterford, if they had to win, they possibly would win All-Ireland. I think that's one of them, you know. If someone told you beforehand Kilkenny will score 111, and you know, you think you'd have a great chance of beating them, but unfortunately we didn't. It was definitely a chance, you know, we didn't take a lot of our chances on the day. You know, we had plenty of chances to score, we didn't take them, and conceded a sloppy goal, you know, which didn't help either. But, you know, it was definitely a guilty chance, you know, that to get over to Kenny. So no one knows what would happen in the final, but for some reason, you always done well against Offaly, you know, and you would have been playing Offaly in All-Ireland, and of course, we never know if we won or not, but you definitely fancy your chances of beating them. Absolutely.
Well, Sean, it's been great to get your memories of 1998. Hope yourself and all your family are keeping well during this lockdown period, and hopefully we'll see you out and about very soon.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
And it's over, and Waterford have won it. They're thrilled. Their joy is unconfined in Porky Cleave. The dynamic Dishes have done it.
Now you're hurling. Lorna Porca with Tomás McCarthy on WLR.
Thanks to PwC Waterford.